The world hasn't stopped, but inside us, something stopped a long time ago. The streets remain full, the screens remain lit, bodies remain upright, but the energy that moves everything seems to have disappeared. There is a kind of silence that precedes collapse. It's not the silence of the early hours of It's the silence that lives within a weary mind. It's the moment when the body begins to whisper while routine screams. How many times have you ignored that knot in your stomach? The constant headache? The invisible weight on your shoulders? You call it tiredness, but your body calls it a warning. Dr. Casey Means says that modern fatigue isn't a lack of willpower, it's a lack of cellular energy. She's not talking about spiritual energy as a mystical concept, but about real energy, the kind that keeps each cell alive. And when that energy starts to fail, the soul feels it first. We live in a time of constant noise, notifications, obligations, comparison. We are bombarded by stimuli, yet starved for true silence. The body tries to adapt, but it wasn't born to live in constant alert mode. Medicine often only sees the end result, the established disease. But before that, there is an invisible field of imbalance, a silent territory where the body struggles to maintain harmony. Casey Means calls this metabolic dysfunction, a technical term, but one that translates a human drama, the gradual loss of the ability to generate energy. What starts with small setbacks in sleep, digestion, mood, ends up becoming a complete collapse. And the worst part is that most people think it's normal. Feeling tired is normal. Feeling unfocused is normal. Needing coffee to function is normal, but it's not. Good energy, as Casey teaches, is not a luxury. It's the natural state of a healthy body. When we are well, our cells work in rhythm, like a harmonious choir. When we are not, each cell begins to play out of time, and the result is the silent chaos we feel as exhaustion, sadness, or apathy. The body is not the enemy, it is the messenger. And all pain is an attempt at communication. But we have been trained to stifle the sound, to swallow the discomfort, to keep producing. The culture of never stopping has transformed rest into guilt and haste into virtue. Perhaps that's why so many people are getting sick without knowing exactly why. It's not just processed food, nor just stress, it's disconnection. Disconnection from one's own rhythm, from breathing, from the body that warns before breaking down. Casey Means proposes something simple yet radical, listening to the body before it needs to scream. But listening requires silence, and that's what we forget how to do. Close your eyes, breathe. Notice what you feel now. Is your heart racing? Does your breathing feel shallow? Is there tension somewhere you didn't even notice? These are the first signs, small, almost invisible, but they are the map back to your inner self. The body is a story being told every day. Each symptom is an unfinished sentence begging to be read. But while we search for answers outside ourselves, in remedies, quick fixes, distractions, we lose the main narrative thread, the intimate conversation between the body and consciousness. Dr. Means often says that when cells are inflamed, everything becomes confused, emotions, decisions, even faith, and that restoring their energy is restoring clarity to life. This is not a recipe, it's an invitation to look at your own body not as a defective machine, but as an energy field trying to return to balance. Perhaps the cure we seek lies not in something new, but in something forgotten, in the simple act of stopping, breathing, and listening to what has always been there. The illness doesn't begin when the body breaks down, but when we stop listening, silence, breathe. The first step is to remember that the body doesn't make mistakes. It warns you. It always has. Behind the hospital lights and the promises of modern medicine, there was a young doctor who believed that healing meant much more than operating. Her name was Casey Means, a graduate of Stanford University, one of the world's most prestigious medical schools. Casey began her career with the same dream that drives many doctors, to save lives. But over time, she realized something few dare to face, that modern medicine is often merely patching up bodies that daily life silently destroys. She worked for years in the surgical field, in an environment where every second counts as a life. And even there, amidst scalpels and protocols, Casey felt a growing unease. Why are we cutting the body but not healing what makes it sick? What began as a question turned into a personal revolution. She abandoned her residency and immersed herself in the study of metabolic health, the way our cells produce and use energy. That's where the seed of the concept she most defends was planted. Good energy, the positive energy that keeps body, mind, and spirit in harmony. But Casey isn't talking about energy in an esoteric sense. She's talking about what happens inside each cell. Inside us, there are trillions of tiny power plants called mitochondria. They convert food, oxygen, and even sleep into vital energy. When these plants function well, life flows. When they fail, the whole system collapses. This is the essence of his message. Health begins with cellular energy. It's not just what we eat, but how we live. Diet, sleep, stress, the light we receive during the day, everything influences how mitochondria work. Casey realized that almost all modern chronic diseases, diabetes, obesity, depression, hypertension, have something in common: a metabolic dysfunction stemming from how we treat our bodies daily. She decided to dedicate her life to translating this science for the general public. She founded Levels Health, a company that analyzes glucose levels in real time and shows how the body reacts to what we eat and feel. Her goal is not to sell a cure, but to teach people to understand their own bodies. It's not about counting calories, it's about learning to listen to the invisible signals of your biology. Over the years, Casey has become a global reference, but what really made her ideas go viral was the way she combines science and consciousness. She talks about metabolism, but also about purpose. She explains about glucose, but ends up talking about mental and emotional clarity. And that's precisely what connects her work with the living essence philosophy. When Casey talks about energy, she's actually talking about life, about how the body tries to maintain a balance between survival and well-being, about how small daily choices build or destroy the system that keeps us alive. Imagine that each of your cells is a lit candle. With each sleepless night, the flame grows smaller. With each rushed meal, the wick shortens. With each anxious thought, the wind blows stronger. And one day, when the candles go out, we call it exhaustion. But in Casey's vision, there's still enough fuse to relight them. That's why her work isn't a promise, it's an invitation to personal responsibility. There are no miracles. There is choice. There is awareness. There is the moment when you decide to stop just functioning and start living with good energy. This is the frontier where science and spirituality meet. There's no need to believe in anything beyond what the body already demonstrates. When nutrition improves, mood improves. When sleep is respected, the mind clears. When natural light touches the skin, the heart slows down. And it's not a coincidence. It's physiology. It's biology in harmony with the nature that created it. Casey Means is not a mystical figure. She is a doctor who dared to question the system and found meaning in giving power back to the people. What she discovered is not new. It's ancient. But by placing science and practice side by side, she gave language to what the body has always known how to say, that health is synonymous with energy flowing without blockage. And when that energy starts circulating again, the gaze changes, the breath changes, life regains its color. What Casey discovered was a simple, but often ignored, truth. We're not broken. We're just disconnected. And this is where Living Essence finds its purpose, to bring this message to those who have forgotten their own rhythm, to those who live exhausted and think it's normal, to those who feel their body is trying to speak, but doesn't understand the language. Good energy is not a privilege. It's the natural right of those who decide to reconnect with what is essential. The body speaks. It always has. But we've forgotten its language. It speaks in subtle ways, a palpitation, a tightness, a hunger that isn't for food. And each time we ignore it, it speaks louder, until one day it screams. Dr. Casey Means says that this silent cry is what she calls metabolic dysfunction. When cells are too tired to generate energy and begin to cry for help, it's not a single illness. It's a collection of small imbalances, recurring insomnia, anxiety that appears for no reason, fatigue that rest doesn't cure, signs that seem harmless but are coded messages from a body trying to maintain harmony in life. The first sign is usually fatigue, not the kind that comes after a long day, but the kind that arrives before the day even begins. You wake up tired, and little by little, you start to think that's just how it is. Then comes the foggy mind, the feeling of living in a fog, forgetting simple things, losing focus, getting irritated easily. It's the brain trying to conserve energy because the body isn't producing enough. And then there's the emotional fluctuation, moments of euphoria followed by empty, sugar spikes, dopamine spikes, highs and lows that leave the soul dizzy. Casey explains that this isn't a lack of character or willpower, it's disorganized biology. When the metabolism malfunctions, the entire body tries to compensate, and each symptom is a desperate attempt to find balance. The problem is that we live in a culture that calls silence weakness. So, at the slightest sign of discomfort, we seek noise, more coffee, more hammocks, more tasks. But the body doesn't fall silent. It just changes its language. Stomach pain turns into gastritis. Insomnia turns into exhaustion. Lack of energy turns into guilt. And guilt turns into more stress. It's a cycle, and most of us are trapped in it without realizing it. Casey Means often says that modern medicine treats symptoms as if they were enemies, when in fact they are alarms. Turning off the alarm doesn't put out the fire. But that's what we do all the time. A painkiller here, a stimulant there, and we carry on until the body stops sending warning. And when it stops, it's because it no longer has the energy even to ask for help. But there is a magical moment between the warning and the collapse. It's the moment when you can still hear. It's brief, almost imperceptible, but it's always there. In the midst of the rush, you might feel a twinge and say, "I'll deal with that later." Deep down, it's your body pleading, "Notice me." Casey Means' wisdom lies in transforming science into listening. She teaches that every physical sign is also an emotional reflection. Biology and the soul don't compete, they dance together. An inflammatory diet creates irritation not only in the cells, but also in the temperament. Lack of sleep generates mental confusion, and with it comes discouragement and pessimism. Everything is connected. The body speaks through the mind speaks through the body, and both speak through the energy that moves them. Therefore, when Casey talks about good energy, she's not just describing mitochondria, she's talking about coherence, a state in which what you eat, think, and feel all move in the same direction. The challenge is that no one taught us how to interpret the body. We learned to read words, but not heartbeat. We learned to interpret faces, but not tiredness, to understand numbers, but not signs. Therefore, this is an invitation. Look within with scientific curiosity and spiritual compassion. Observe yourself without judgment. When you feel hungry, ask yourself, "What am I hungry for?" When you feel irritated, ask yourself, "What's causing the inflammation?" When you feel sleepy, respect its request. The body doesn't lie. It just wants to be heard. Dr. Means reminds us that health is not the absence of symptoms, but the presence of awareness. And awareness is born in silence. If you stop now for a few seconds and take a deep breath, you will notice the internal movement, a pulse in your neck, the air expanding your chest, your body trying to keep up the rhythm. That's what she calls living energy. It's not something you buy, nor something you achieve through sheer force. It's something you recover when you return to cooperating with your body, because deep down, body and soul are on the same side. Both just want to continue existing, with less noise and more presence. Every illness begins with a story the body tried to tell, but no one wanted to hear. May that story, from now on, be heard. There comes a point when the body tires of screaming, and it is at that moment, when the noise of routine dissolves, that the first space for awakening is born. Casey Means says that healing begins when consciousness awakens to the body. It's not a magical act. It's a return to basics, to that which we have forgotten, because it has become too simple for the modern world to accept. She talks about mindful metabolism, a lifestyle that understands that everything that enters and leaves the body carries energy. What you eat, what you think, what you feel, the air you breathe, and even the environment where you live, everything makes up a living system in constant communication. Awakening begins when we realize that we are the system. And the first step is to slow down the pace. For years, we've been taught to believe that the body is a machine that must function at all costs. But the body is not a robot. It's an orchestra. And each instrument needs pause, silence, and tuning. Casey often says that good energy comes from the balance between movement and rest. Too much movement leads to exhaustion. Too much rest creates stagnation. The secret lies in finding the right rhythm. Therefore, awakening doesn't begin with grand decisions, but with small gestures of reconnection. Waking up and seeing natural light, drinking water before coffee, taking a deep breath before answering, eating slowly, walking without headphones, going to bed at the same time every day. Simple, almost banal. But it is in the banal that the body finds the peace it has lost. Dr. Means states that cells don't care about promises. They react to the environment. If the environment is chaotic, metabolism suffers. If it's harmonious, metabolism flourishes. She explains that mitochondria, those tiny power plants, are extremely sensitive to stress, lack of natural light, and poor diet. But they also respond quickly to care. Within a few weeks of change, the body begins to remember its natural state. Awakening is not a goal. It's a process of remembering that living is not just surviving. That health is not the absence of symptoms, but the presence of vitality. And that good energy doesn't come from supplements or fads. It comes from the harmony between body, mind, and soul. For Casey, every meal is a choice between inflaming or nourishing. Every thought is a chemical command. Every emotion generates an electrical reaction. And every breath is an opportunity to reset the... She often says, everything you do is a conversation with your metabolism. And if it's a conversation, maybe your body is just waiting for you to respond. Waking up isn't silent, it's gentle. You begin to notice the difference. Sleep improves, the mind clears, mood balance, minor aches and pains lessen, and little by little, life regains its color. But the most profound point of this process is understanding that the body doesn't awaken on its own. It awakens when the mind and soul also allow themselves to rest, because a tired mind produces heavy thoughts, and heavy thoughts drain energy. Therefore, reconnecting isn't just about changing habits. It's about changing the way you exist. It's about looking at yourself with the same respect you would give to a loved one. It's about stopping demanding perfection and starting to practice being present. Dr. Means believes that the new health paradigm will not come from stronger drugs, but from more conscious people. And that's what makes awakening an act of silent revolution. Imagine a world where each person lives in harmony with their own body, where work, rest, and food follow the same rhythm, where technology serves life and not the other way around. That's what she's talking about when she uses the term good energy. This is not about abstract spirituality, but about giving back to biology what belongs to it. Balance. Good energy is the body remembering what it's like to live without noise. Awakening is the point where science meets the soul. It's when we understand that the body doesn't need to be tamed, it needs to be listened to, and that true power lies not in controlling life, but in cooperating with it. This is the beginning of a new awareness, and perhaps the moment when you finally remember what it means to be alive. The silence of the body is not the end. It is a new beginning. After chaos comes understanding. After the scream comes listening. And it is in this space between what we were and what we choose to be that the living essence is born. Dr. Casey Means says that good energy is the foundation of a good life. But this energy isn't something you seek outside yourself. It's a return, a reminder of who we are when the body and mind realign. Living essence is not a concept. It's a state. It's when you no longer need to force it because the body flows. It's when the mind stops fighting against itself. It's when the soul finally feels at home. Science calls it homeostasis, philosophy calls it balance, and life calls it peace. For a long time, we believed that the body was something to be fixed. But Casey Means showed that, in fact, it is something to be understood. The body is not against us. It is the translation of what we choose to feel, think, and experience. Living essence is born when understanding replaces control. When you understand that health is not a prize, it's a relationship. And that good energy is the natural consequence of living in coherence. Imagine yourself as a vibrating field. Every emotion changes the frequency, every thought alters the rhythm, every breath reshapes the internal environment. When these vibrations come into harmony, you don't need to heal anything. The body knows what to do. Casey speaks about this with a serene look. She says that good energy is the result of the union between the biological and the spiritual, that metabolism and consciousness are connected, and that true well-being arises when we stop separating them. The awakening that began with silence now blossoms into awareness. You begin to perceive the difference between being alive and living, between existing and pulsating. The living essence is the moment when you stop reacting to the world and begin to create your own energy. Waking up becomes a sacred act. Eating becomes a dialogue with the body. Sleeping turns into a ritual of regeneration, and even walking becomes a prayer. Because when there is good energy, everything becomes an expression of life. But this isn't perfection. Casey reminds us that even good energy fluctuates. There will be cloudy days, confusing weeks, and yet, within all of that, there will be movement. Constancy is an illusion. Flux is real, and the body understands flow better than the mind. It doesn't demand linearity. It just wants space to breathe. The living essence is this space. It's where you forgive yourself, where you understand that the pursuit of control has distanced you from peace, but the simple act of listening to yourself brings you back to the right path. That's when you realize your body doesn't want to punish you, it wants to protect you. And each symptom is a form of raw love, a warning saying, I'm still here, take care of me. Ultimately, it's about reconciliation between what you think you are and what your body has always known it could be. And when that reconciliation happens, something changes. Breathing deepens, the mind slows down, presence returns. Casey Means calls this full metabolism, a state where the body produces clean energy without overload, without noise, in harmony with the mind. And when that happens, you feel it. You can't measure it with tests, but your whole body knows. You wake up with clarity. The world seems lighter. The things that used to drain you lose their power. And in place of tiredness, purpose emerges. That's where living essence manifests itself, not as a concept, but as a way of being. It is the point where science and soul join hands, where the body becomes a temple again, and energy becomes prayer again. Good energy is not a privilege of the few. It is the natural state of those who have learned to live with intention. So if you're hearing this now, know that there's still time. The body still speaks, the soul still vibrates, and life still waits for you to return to. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, feel it. The good energy has always been there. It just needed to be remembered. You don't need to chase after essence. It is you. It's what remains when everything else falls silent. Welcome back to your vibrant energy. Welcome to Awakening. If this video spoke to you, remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. Your presence here helps this energy reach more people. Turn on notifications to receive new content, and continue walking with us on this journey of reconnecting with your body, mind, and soul. Welcome to Living Essence, where good energy is reborn.